Welcome into another Win Daily Sports stream here, windailysports.com. Check out our YouTube channel, Win Daily Sports, and there's plenty to go over today. We're going to be going over some of the cuts, really one major one, and also give our top 5 must-have wide receivers. We'll get into the details of that more. My name is Jon Jansen. Follow me at jjansen34. My guy Stoweby. You can check out there at Stoweby, Stoweby. And Stoweby, look, I knew we were going to get, it always happens. We get one or two kind of out of nowhere releases. This one was out of nowhere because I think some had him projected to be the starting quarterback. There were some saying that he was going to be the starting quarterback, no matter what, and that we shouldn't really be talking about Mack Jones yet. But it seems like some of the COVID issues and just overall weren't so happy with Cam Newton. So Bill Belichick and the Patriots released Cam Newton, who was their starting quarterback last season, which now Mack Jones is the guy. That changes everything here. So let's run through all those changes. First of all, we'll get into the wide receivers and the tight ends and the running backs, but Mack Jones, where do you see him now in terms of a fantasy quarterback?
He's definitely draftable in 2 QB leagues. I want to see him play in NFL regular season game speed.
Yes.
Honestly,
that needs to happen. That needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, he's looked pretty good. I'm still going to say QB2, like as far as production goes. Like right now he's a backup quarterback. He could be a whole lot more, but I need to see it. There's a few games in the early going that are going to be pretty interesting on the New England schedule. But I mean, he's got the talent. He's got 2 really good tight ends. Jacoby Myers is a decent wide receiver. I want to see how he grows into this offense when he's facing full speed where people are actually trying. But
right. And it's not like Mack Jones gives you anything on the ground. So it's not the same situation as a Justin Fields when he goes in. Maybe he's not particularly sharp passing the ball, but, you're probably going to get some kind of ceiling when it comes to rushing. Mack Jones, in order to return on investment here, look, he's going to be a late drafted quarterback, but there's a potential that he really doesn't put up that big of numbers, especially in the passing game. He's very much a one-dimensional quarterback, which is fine. That can work, and he could be very good for the Patriots, but I just don't expect that to happen all at once this year. I just think there are other ways you can go. It certainly makes the Patriots offense for some other players intriguing, but in terms of Mack Jones, there are just too many other options that I would rather go with and feel comfortable with than Mack Jones. Let's say that I would take Jameis Winston over Mack Jones, no doubt about it.
In a heartbeat.
Right. No doubt about it. And Jameis Winston to me is about 20. So if you're going outside of and 20, obviously in if you're drafting 2 quarterbacks in a top, a 12-team league, obviously, you're probably going to get Jameis Winston as one of your QB2s late in the draft. Mack Jones probably doesn't get drafted, at least for me, in 12-team regular standard redraft leagues. So the next thing to this now is his offense, though. His wide receivers, his running backs. I don't know if that makes too much, but I think what it benefits most is tight ends. Jonnu Smith seems like a guy that I'm probably going to be taking a lot more now. Even if that ADP rises, it probably won't go high enough for me. I love Jonnu Smith, and I think, taking a chance on Jacoby Myers and Nelson Agholor late could definitely pay off.
Oh, yeah. Nelson Agholor is one now. My only concern with Agholor, as always, is the drops, but let's see how much. I mean, we're getting towards the end
production's
of the
there. The real life problem is the drops. I think with the fantasy thing though is that he does, he's explosive enough as a wide receiver that he could end up putting some points here and some production.
Oh yeah, he's going to have some good weeks, and it's not like you're paying a premium for somebody like Agholor right now. Now, everybody tends to overreact the closer we get to week 1. So we may get a little bit of a boost to a point where we don't want him, but that's just something that kind of remains to be seen. We'll do some mock drafts, see where people are taking these guys at this point. Keep an eye on current ADP trends. We'll see the risers and the fallers over time. But as far as Cam goes, you heard it here first. You heard it here first. Just Just saying, I wasn't expecting him to last very long. I just think that COVID situation was the final nail in the coffin. I didn't think he was going to make it. I didn't think he was going to make it to the bye week no matter what. But I think that just sped up the process. And it's just, it is what it is. He can still be a functional back or a functional quarterback somewhere else. It's just he's getting on the tail end of his career. It's just folks need to realize that.
Yeah, and Mack Jones is definitely going to be, I think, better for this offense, at least in terms of fantasy. Mack Jones, just temper expectations a little bit. Like I've been seeing, Mack Jones is like rookie of the year potential, and you got to take his. But hold on,
calm down,
calm down. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. I think you need to give him a little bit of time. At least for me, though. I probably won't be drafting him in any redraft leagues. It's just not worth it. I'd rather take a chance on somebody else. I'd rather take Derek Carr. I'd rather take Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'd rather take Tua Tagovailoa. I'd rather take a lot of those guys over Mack Jones.
Yes to all of the above.
So now let's go into the topic for today. What we got for today? The top 5 must-have wide receivers in fantasy. And we're going to do this with a little bit of a wrinkle. We can't pick any wide receiver that's in the same round. So we can't pick any wide receiver if they're both ADPs in the first round. We cannot take them. We can only take 1 first-round wide receiver, 1 second-round wide receiver, 1 third-round, and so on. And we don't have to take them. Basically, the exercise is, these guys are all in tiers. So we're getting the must-have wide receivers basically in their tiers, in their round groups is where they're at, 4th, 5th round, wherever the case may be. And so I think it's going to really spread things out and make us find those must-have wide receivers in some really interesting spots. So I'll start with you first. Who's your top 5? Number 1. I guess we'll start with number 5. I guess we should do it. 5, work our way up to 1. But top 5 must-have wide receivers. And this doesn't have to be in order. We'll just name 5, of course. That
okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and go with my bias, my Green Bay bias, and go with Devonta Adams at number 1. So.
Nice. And it doesn't even need much of an explanation. I mean, the guy's just
the floor ceiling,
right?
Yeah, and the reason that I put him separate of everybody else, I mean, I do say bias jokingly, but he brings a floor ceiling combination that nobody else has. He's going to get targeted more than anybody else in the NFL, and it's not even close. And so if you're telling me that I'm going to get a guy that's going to get a dozen plus targets a game and then still has the athletic upside and the touchdown equity with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL throwing him the football, it provides just that combination that you can't get anywhere else. Like I know Tyreek's the big play guy, and I know Nook is a fantastic wide receiver, but I'm not completely 100% in on the passing volume that Kyler Murray can have. And Tyreek still can kind of have those weeks where he gets schemed out of the offense, and somebody like a Travis Kelce will have a huge game, and like a Byron Pringle will blow up, and a Mecole Hardman will blow up because they're triple teaming him throughout the entire game because they don't want him to burn pass. So that's where my mindset goes with somebody like Devonta Adams.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley. I just think this is the season, and he's great. 1,300 yards last year, so I hate to say breakout because last season was spectacular, and he was one of the best receivers in fantasy football. But now there's a chance that it even gets higher. It doesn't really matter if Matt Ryan regresses or this offense is a little bit different. He's talented enough that he's going to get open. We've seen it throughout training camp. We've seen it throughout the guy's 3 years already in the NFL. Calvin Ridley, he's able to beat NFL DBs with relative ease. And I think the volume is certainly going to be there. Kyle Pitts is the number 2 wide receiving option, and he's a completely different, obviously a tight end, and a completely different receiver than what Calvin Ridley would be doing. I just think there's so much potential and opportunity and usage, targets, everything we want to throw out there in terms of, how much he's going to get, how much opportunity, it's all there. And the thing is, he's very good with all the opportunity that he gets as well. He had his highest yards per reception last season and 9 touchdowns, which is the second most in his career. So I just think it's nothing but up with Calvin Ridley. And to me, there's a real big potential here for him to be the number 1 receiver in fantasy football when things are said and done.
I think that's completely fair. That I love Calvin Ridley, and it didn't matter to me whether or not Julio was going to be there or not. He surpassed him last year. Julio was I know people are trying to call him a 1B, but I don't look at it the same way. I think he's a number 2 receiver now. And I think we'll see that in Tennessee. So AJ Brown's got that job. So Calvin Ridley I was expecting him to have a monster season regardless.
Yeah. All right, let's go with our next ones. Number 2, who do you have for top 5 must-have wide receivers?
Let's see. Moving into the second round, let me go ahead and get a little bit of Justin Jefferson.
Nice. Why Justin Jefferson?
It was kind of what we talked about the other day. His volume was absolutely insane, and it is something that I have never seen with a rookie wide receiver before. The guy's getting targeted. He runs crisp, clean routes. He's a physical monster, big, strong, fast. Adam Thielen's on the back leg of his career. I don't think he's going to be getting nearly the amount of work that we're used to seeing from a guy like him. And he had a lot of randomness in his touchdown numbers last season. And if those numbers go away, you'll see with the fantasy production, kind of Adam Thielen is kind of changing in his role, and it's Justin Jefferson's show. Now I expect Irv Smith to pick up some of that work, but you can't guard Jefferson. I mean, he could very well end up as a top 3 or 4 wide receiver in the NFL. I would not be shocked if he ended up like 3rd in PPR formats when the end of the season came around. He's a polished wide receiver that is only in a second year.
Yeah, and I think both of these guys I am very high on. Justin Jefferson, obviously, going from his rookie year to his second year, fantastic. But I love Terry McLaurin. He's going a couple spots back, and Terry McLaurin with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, is a phenomenal fit. Already 134 targets last season. I don't see anything taking that away, too. And look, I thought Washington got rid of a few really good wide receivers when they released a few. And I think it's even opening it up more for just Terry McLaurin to be the guy. 134 targets last season, 87 receptions. That was with bad quarterback play and over 1,100 yards. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, look, he loves to go downfield. He loves to get vertical down the field. And that 15.8 yards per reception, I think Terry McLaurin can get back to. It was 12.9 last season. His rookie year was 15.8. I think he can get actually somewhere close to there again. And with the same, similar targets that he's going to get, probably similar receptions, 87 to 90. I think we're seeing a 1,300-yard wide receiver here. And obviously touchdowns vary, but the 4 touchdowns, probably I would say 4 to 6 touchdowns is probably what you're going to get as well. But I think 1,400 yards for him, certainly attainable with now a quarterback that can, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I have my reservations about, but much better than what Alex Smith was and Dwayne Haskins was last season.
Yeah, that's much more fair. And we all know what Ryan Fitzpatrick brings, and he is an aggressive, all or nothing quarterback, and that benefits a burner like Terry McLaurin. He's gonna get his opportunities. Yeah, Fitzpatrick's gonna throw plenty of interceptions. We know that, and the coaching staff knows that. They're not bringing in a guy like him and asking him to manage a game. It's just not that. I know people think that that's what's going to happen. They're going to live on the run game. You don't bring Ryan Fitzpatrick in as your quarterback if that's your intentions. So I have a lot of faith in what Terry McLaurin is. I've got him. I've probably got him in 70 to 80% of my best balls just because of where he ends up in these best ball all leagues. It's just the value is tremendous, and I think there's a little more touchdown upside than even what you're thinking. I think he'll be closer to 6 to 8.
Probably just deep balls. Deep balls and getting that opportunity down the field.
Just because of the aggressive nature that I see coming from Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so we're going through our top 5 must-have wide receivers right now here at Win Daily Sports. Go to windailysports.com, sign up for a gold membership, and use the promo code NFL2021. You can get $100 off a 6-month subscription. Sign up now, and you'll be good for the football season. And in that gold membership, you can get our season-long rankings. You can get the Discord chat where we'll be going over week to week, helping you in DFS, helping you with your season-long leads, all of that. Sign up right now, windailysports.com. Also, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page as well. That'll help out a lot. All right, number 3 for you. I'll go over it real quick, the wide receivers we have so far. I have Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin. You have Devonta Adams and Justin Jefferson. Who is your next one that you have for us?
He's kind of borderline 3-4 as far as the rounds go, but I love the ceiling potential for somebody like Jon Jansen this season.
Nice.
And I've talked about him a lot.
I love Jon Jansen.
Yep. The only thing he needs to do is not drop the football. And I think people are writing off Ben Roethlisberger entirely too early. I feel like a broken record. We've talked about it a few times.
Yeah, but it's worth repeating over and over. Like you're very bullish on him, and
yes.
I think I am as well. To be honest with you, with that offense.
Oh, absolutely. And that you could see in the preseason games, Ben pretty much said, "No, I want to play more. I need to get out there and I need to get some reps." You're seeing him uncork the ball. He's not throwing it 60 yards like he used to. He's almost 40 years old. So, we can't expect that. But people are thinking he's gone. It's like, no, he was still throwing 45, 50-yard passes here in the preseason. Now, granted, he's not going to get it, all the way down the damn field like somebody like Patrick Mahomes is. But nobody's going to do that. That is Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes are the only two people that are really making those throws accurately in the NFL. So to expect Roethlisberger to be that type of guy is just, I think it's unfair to him as a 40-year-old quarterback. They're going to run a lot of slant concepts. They're going to run a lot of deep posts. They're going to run a lot of a lot of goes with the guy, and that offensive line should be better. The running game should keep the play action honest. So there is going to be a lot of deep field potential for somebody like Johnson this year. And if he only drops 7 or 8 passes this season, you're talking 1,300 yards.
Yeah.
And then
just the average yards per reception in the
that's going to go up. That is going to go up.
It's going to go up.
You.
Yes, yeah, it has. I think it would. There's no way that offense, and I think Ben Roethlisberger knows that. There's no way that offense can survive with the kind of short passing game that they did last year. So I think the air yards go up in this offense. I think the yards per reception for most receivers go up in this offense. I really do think that it just kind of goes up a little bit, and that helps.
The air yards. Don't be surprised if the air yards nearly double this season. Last year was an aberration.
Yeah.
Last year was an absolute aberration, and it was 100%, or not 100%. It was 50% due to the line issues and 50% due to Ben Roethlisberger's injury not being fully healed yet. I promise you will see a completely different offense run this year. I will eat my freaking hat if it doesn't.
I completely agree with that. All right. Well, I'm not with you eating your hat. I agree with all the analysis.
Well, look, I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, please don't do that. So I'm going to go with my next wide receiver, and he's going around the 5th, 6th round. Odell Beckham Jr. He's a little bit right there with Jon Jansen, and I knew one of us were probably going to say Deontay, so I wanted to at least make it known that I do love Odell Beckham Jr. in this spot. We have not seen Odell Beckham now in the offense that Cleveland is currently right now. There is a certain cap here in what that passing offense is going to be, but again, you're getting him in around the 6th round. He's your wide receiver 3 on most of your teams, and if you're getting him as a WR3, I think there's enough big play potential here, and the fact that he's so talented that he may not need as many targets to get you production at wide receiver 3. And Baker Mayfield's going to be, I think, more accurate this season. He was 62% last year. And if we go by what he was by the end of the season in the offense when he felt comfortable, that's probably going to go up around 65, 66%. And so if it does become that efficient and that offense does, look, Odell Beckham Jr. is talented enough. And I don't think we're questioning the talent. We're just questioning, whether or not this offense can get it to him and make it work with him. And I think it absolutely can. If he's healthy, he's a WR3 right now, and I'm really comfortable with him as a WR3 this season.
Okay, that's fair. And you already know I'm not on the Odell Beckham side. I prefer the Jarvis Landry side, but that's just because at that point in time, I'm good with the consistency for my wide receiver 3 or my wide receiver 4 or flex, depending on the format that you have it in. So when it comes to that offense, I just prefer the Jarvis Landry end of it. But like you said, Odell Beckham, I know he's he's sneakily getting a little bit long in the tooth. I know he's still got a little left, but he's had that injury history and he's missed a lot of time.
Yes, that is concern. So, absolutely.
Yeah. So, but at this point in time, you're taking a little bit of risk. I mean, you're talking about a guy that was a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL several years back. So you're hoping you catch a little lightning in the bottle at this point. So it does make a little bit of sense. So
yeah, there's a couple of things. You're making sure you're catching lightning in a bottle, and you're projecting this Cleveland offense to be better passing the ball this season because of what they were mostly in the second half. And Odell Beckham Jr. never got to see, that kind of production because by the time he got injured, Baker Mayfield was still wasn't that guy yet.
Yeah,
so we still don't know.
Year 2, he tried, he did the best that he could, but he just got dinged up. So yeah, I do know that I have a little bit of blind spot as far as that goes with Baker not actually being in that offense comfortable with a guy like Beckham in there. So I am curious to see what that turns into. And it would be really nice if the preseason games, they would actually play any of their freaking starters.
It would be nice
because
just to know that they're healthy. Like Cortland Sutton, I think any reservation I might have had about his injury completely gone away after that preseason game, because the way he was cutting, the way he looked, it's just nice to know that he looked that good.
Yeah, I hate me as a film guy, as much film as I watch, to sit there and go through the preseason and watch all these freaking condensed games and just to not get a feel for what these teams are going to be doing, if there's any changes as far as key positions or coaching changes or offensive scheme changes. It's so irritating. Just give me a half of football with each of the starters for every team, like Justin Herbert. I mean, the sophomore slump, I don't really call it a concern, but there's a lot of players, a lot of quarterbacks that have had difficult second and third years when they're starters. And I just wanted to see his progression and his growth, because there were still some things I wanted to look at, but they decided not to play any of their starters. So we really don't know what the Chargers are right now. We don't know.
Yeah, it would be nice to know, and it'd be nice to know how things kind of shake up, because I know
so that's a little tangent.
It's because their wide receiver depth chart is kind of getting a little bit loaded there, and there.
Is Jalen Guyton going to do anything?
Right.
Is Mike Williams actually going to have a full breakout season, or is he? It's stuff like that I have questions on. I mean, we'll get it out in week 1 and week 2. It's just frustrating. That's just me as a person who studies the film and tries to give people good picks. It's just irritating.
Speaking of good picks, who is your number 4 wide receiver here for our top 5 must-have wide receivers?
My number 4, there's actually a couple of them that I am looking at.
There you go.
I'm actually I want to go a little bit further down on the list than I normally would. I'm going to go for
how deep we going down?
Antonio Brown, because I still think people are undervaluing him. I mean, Antonio Brown he has never had a drop off. You look at his statistics, and yes, he's getting a little bit older, but he is aging extremely gracefully as far as his production goes.
Yeah.
Like the numbers, if you extrapolate these numbers out from his suspension with Tom Brady, he had like a wide receiver 3, borderline wide receiver 2 season if you would have stretched that out over 16 full games as a starter. And I don't think people are giving him enough love. I know he's always, his mental state is always a question mark. You don't know when that AB is going to show up, or if it even will show up. Yeah. But if he is on the field, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL over the last 20 plus years. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Give me a little bit of that. If I'm picking him up at around 85 and you're telling me that he could still give me wide receiver 2 production, give me that all day.
Yeah. Antonio Brown, I do like in that offense. And
he's
going to get his share.
And if we're expecting guys like Mike Evans to kind of take a step back with that touchdown equity, those touchdowns have to go to somebody else. And I think it's Antonio Brown, and to a smaller extent, Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin should have a pretty good season too.
Yes, he should. I'm going with, for my number 4, you went Antonio Brown. I'm going with Tyler Boyd, just because I think we're kind of forgetting Tyler Boyd in this offense.
No,
because
I was looking at him, but I had a feeling
were you really?
Want to talk.
Yeah,
I had a feeling you wanted to talk about him.
It's a crowded wide receiver room, but again, I've said this multiple times. I think he separates himself a little bit from the pack just because of the fact that he's a slot receiver. The other two are strictly, I think, outside guys. Jamar Chase is an outside guy. T. Higgins is an outside guy who was strictly outside, will not play any slot at all. Jamar Chase has the skill set to play honestly anywhere, but he's going to be in that offense pretty much an outside receiver. Tyler Boyd in the slot, man, there is going to be so much consistency there with Joe Burrow. I think he's going to look Tyler Boyd's way a lot. I think you're going to see a lot of short to intermediate routes go to Tyler Boyd. And we've seen Tyler Boyd be really productive in his past 3 seasons with bad quarterbacks. Last year he didn't get over the 1,000-yard threshold. He had 841 yards, but 1,000-yard seasons the 2 years before that. And with Joe Burrow, who was throwing to him, like Brandon Allen, like scrubs. Scrubs were throwing to Tyler Boyd last season.
Trash cans.
Joe Burrow, I'm not a big fan of the Cincinnati offense, and Joe Burrow, I don't think Cincinnati is going to be any good this season, but they're going to throw a lot. And Zach Taylor's offense, we know, is going to be a passing offense, spread offense, and Tyler Boyd, I think, just reaps the benefits of getting a bunch of targets peppered his way. And in PPR leagues, for sure, I'm taking Tyler Boyd because there's potential here. He gets about, 115, 120 targets, and we probably see close to 85 receptions and, maybe 1,000 yards too. That'll be close, but I think with where he's being drafted, he's great.
Yeah, everything you said, absolutely 100% on point. And it seems to me like Jamar Chase has a little case of the yips that he's going to need to work.
He does. I don't know. Yeah, and that's one where I'm now slightly reserved. He's one that I just want to see it. And maybe not take my chance with any of the wide receivers like him at that around, where he's being drafted at the moment, because, all right, let me just take a wide receiver I sort of know and not a completely unknown. And now somebody who may have the yips, just maybe back off a little bit. I love Jamar Chase and I think he'll be fine. And I think he's a fantastic wide receiver, but maybe just for fantasy this season, it's a little bit of a hold off now.
Yeah.
Just going out to get him.
Look, he took last season off. So
yes, that right. I think that's more noteworthy, I think, than just, he was bad in preseason. That's more noteworthy of he was out last season.
Yeah. You don't look, no matter what anybody says, you do not get the same type of reps if you're not actually playing on the team. Practice reps by yourself, practice reps with the trainer are very different than game reps with the coaching staff and actually getting out there. So it makes a difference. Now, I do like the idea of stashing him in something like Dynasty for next year if he has a slow start and he's having a struggle this year and he is dropping a lot of passes. If you're a Dynasty player, it might be worth seeing what you could get him for so that he can get year 2. Because I have a feeling that if he does have this down season, that's going to light a fire under somebody like him. And
I think he's a fantastic, talented wide receiver. So it may just take 1 year for him to get his footing in the NFL.
Yeah. So midway through the season, if he's struggling, Dynasty players take a look at
Yes, I agree with that. So we do have a question here. So we'll take this one from Giants 26. Should I trade Aaron Jones for Devonta Adams? Solid running backs without Jones, Gibson, CEH, Gus, and Mike Davis. How do we feel about this? If you can, just kind of give us who your wide receivers are, because my thing always is I don't like trading away my running back depth because you never know how thin it's going to get and how quickly it can get thin. Because Gibson, if you just go with Gibson, CEH, Gus, and Mike Davis, that right now looks okay. And I would take that running back room. Right. Even maybe a few games into the season, one of those guys get hurt. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not liking it so much, and you're not, now you lose Aaron Jones and you lose maybe, Gibson or Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Gus Edwards. And all of a sudden you go,
Keenan and
Deontay Johnson.
Is it a 3 wide receiver league or is it a 2 wide receiver league and a flex?
I think that needs to be a good distinction as well. I'm sort of leaning keeping Jones. I don't know about you. I'm leaning
I am
Keaton
too.
Jones. That's a good wide receiver group right there.
Yeah, that really is.
Let me not mess with my running back depth, especially like Aaron Jones might not be the solid, solidified.
Yes, definitely keep your keep Aaron Jones. Don't trade him. If it was 3 wide receivers, I could have made a justification for it, but as a flex, you're going to need that running back depth even more, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. And again, Aaron Jones, like there's a potential he may not be a solidified RB1 this season. You know, he could regress back, but he's still going to be very good. Like it's still a dependable running back that there aren't many of those, and that can quickly go away in a season.
Oh yeah, and he gets his usage. He is very efficient. And we talked about that when we discussed the NFC North the other week. He doesn't need to get 300 carries to be what we think of him. He got used sparingly last year. He got 55-60%,
and he's a good pass catching back. I think that always not gets forgotten, but it's not, I don't think, talked about too much enough.
Yeah, like, he's one of the better one of the better pass catching backs in the NFL. So he can do it on limited reps. He can give you 12 to 14 carries, give you 80 to 100 yards of rushing and a touchdown, and then he can catch 6 or 7 balls for 80 to 90 yards and 1 to 2 touchdowns any given week. That's just what he brings to the table. And he can do it on, he can get, 15, 16, 17 total touches, and he can sit there and take the lid off of a defense both ways. So yeah, I love Devonta Adams, but with the way that your league is structured and with that
Aaron Jones,
that running back depth is going to be crucial.
Completely agree. Hey, and some of that advice you're getting here on this live stream, we're always going to be doing these 30 minutes each day during the NFL season. But if you want access to our experts, go and sign up to Win Daily Sports right now for the gold membership. And you can have access to our experts all the time. And they're active. We're always active. I see them in the Discord chat all the time, going over season-long stuff, DFS stuff, answering questions. The Discord chat is always there. And look, even others, the community that's just built in Win Daily Sports as well, others give you opinions and what they think. It's a really great community. So definitely join, and you can get your questions answered like that. Now, we are going over our top 5 must-have wide receivers. If you want to send us those, hit us up, Win Daily Sports, and maybe we can give you a nice little 1-month free membership if you give us your top 5 must-have wide receivers for this season. So we'll go to our last ones. Well, I'll recap again. I have Calvin Ridley so far, Terry McLaurin, Odell Beckham Jr., and Tyler Boyd. You have Adams, Devonta Adams, Justin Jefferson, Deontay Johnson, and Antonio Brown. And now, drum roll, our last wide receivers at number 5.
Is it going to be you or me this time?
You can go. Oh, you can go.
All right, I'll go. You may actually be looking at him, but I'm gonna steal it. I'll let me a little Michael Gallup as the.
Nice. I wasn't, but I love it. I love Michael Gallup. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. We talked about it the other day. It's both of us. One of these two, either Amari Cooper or CD Lamb. One of them is. Somebody's going to have to take a step back, and I think Michael Gallup is going to be the one that actually benefits from Dak Prescott running that offense and more, because with the offensive line being solid now, with Dak supposedly being healthy, and it's one of those I need to see it in the game, but Michael Gallup is their deep field threat. If they have the time to actually protect Dak and let him throw these balls deep downfield, Michael Gallup is going to be the beneficiary of it. And he could explode. Yeah,
and Michael Gallup's developed nicely. Like, it's not like when they drafted him, they didn't, I think, like him, or he wasn't. It's just, I think that the Cowboys got a little greedy. Jerry Jones got greedy, liked CeeDee Lamb, and wanted to take him, so they did. And now they have this just abundance of wide receivers. And I don't think it was the fault of Michael Gallup. Like, I don't think they looked at Gallup and go, I don't know if he's turning out the way we like. He's actually, I think, really paid off. What was he, a second-round wide receiver out of Oklahoma State? And I think he's paid off really well for them, and I think he's a good receiver. And, Amari Cooper's the one that I think sometimes, disappears. And there is going to be an opportunity where Michael Gallup is going to get more of the target shares, and I think he's going to do a lot with it. I think Amari Cooper's a very talented wide receiver, but we've seen this way too much where he just kind of disappears a little bit. Michael Gallup is going to work his way into this trio. And look, if things all go well in Dallas land, this is Dak Prescott could legitimately get close to 5,000 yards. And if he gets close to 5,000 yards, that doesn't mean CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are going to have both 2,000 yards each. It's going to go somewhere else. And Michael Gallup is definitely the beneficiary of that.
Yep. Yes. I mean, people got to remember 113 targets, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 2019.
Man.
17-game season. Offensive line is going to be healthy again. If everything clicks, that downfield presence is going to create production. You're giving me a guy that's probably going to average between 16 to 18 yards per reception, and a team that has a mediocre best case scenario defense. Give me a little bit of that.
Yeah, last one I'm going to go with, my number 5 here, Marvin Jones Jr. over there in Jacksonville. I don't think and I've been kind of talking about this a little bit lately, I don't think the Trevor Lawrence bump has been appropriately given to these Jacksonville wide receivers. I think it's just looked at, it's Jacksonville, their offense stinks. Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence are 2 completely different talent levels. Like, Trevor Lawrence is going to make this offense look, like a legitimate NFL offense, and he can make any kind of throw. And you open the offensive playbook that much. Like, Gardner Minshew was a fine quarterback, and I think he actually overexceeded, what his physical limitations are, overexceeded any expectations we had. But Trevor Lawrence can make throws that Gardner Minshew can't dream of. Like, legitimately, just can't. The ball gets out quicker. The ball gets out of his hand with much more velocity. I think he's more accurate than Gardner Minshew. He's able to roll out of the pocket and is more athletic than Gardner Minshew. There's just so much that opens up with this playbook now, and honestly, that opens up with just the talent that Trevor Lawrence has. You have to give the bump. All the numbers that you see with Marvin Jones Jr. from last year, 115 targets, 76 receptions, 978 yards, maybe not the 9 touchdowns. That varies, of course, but those numbers are all in reach, I think, in this offense. DJ Chark, he's already coming into the season a little banged up. Laviska Shenault, I think, now ends up taking a little bit more of that Travis Etienne role and has a little bit of a different role in this offense. Marvin Jones Jr. is the one that is going to be the standout number 1 wide receiver in Jacksonville, and I will be taking him in pretty much every single draft because of that. I think he's going to be fantastic.
That's good. You're actually the person that convinced me to take another look at Marvin Jones
several
weeks back. So, he's somebody. He is somebody that I think we are all undervaluing. It's not, I mean, his situation over the last couple of years hasn't been great. He's still been productive, and he's just always forgotten about.
Right. He's been in bad offenses. Like, he's not been on good teams. Like, I think the situation sort of is the same thing in Detroit. Not a great team, not the best offensive line, but Matthew Stafford's just so talented that he makes it work, and Marvin Jones benefited because of that. Like, Trevor Lawrence is going to do the same thing, I think.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be getting, with Trevor Lawrence, with that multi-dimensional kind of deal with it, with his offensive skill set, he's going to have to keep the team's defenses honest. Jacksonville's offensive line isn't garbage. It's just
not.
It's good. Yeah, it's good enough. Lawrence is going to do fine. He's going to run. He's going to be able to get out, run these bootlegs, run these, QB read options. They're going to bring an aspect of that to the offense with Urban Meyer, and that stuff is going to keep these guys to where they're going to stay pat, and they're going to honor that running ability that they have on that team, and that's going to leave Marvin Jones open for some pretty big games. It's going to happen. And with ETN, I think Laviska, I love Laviska. I know people are finally on him now that ETN got hurt, but I think a lot of what Laviska is going to increase, he's going to get more catches. But I think where you're going to see the increase with him is actually, I think you're going to get him a little more in the running game, in these jet sweeps and these kind of tricky little scenarios with that Urban Meyer offense.
He'll be used all over the field. I know he's not like a similar type of receiver, but it's almost like a Percy Harvin. Like, they're going to use him just in so many ways and in so many, different gadget plays, but used as a traditional wide receiver too. But I think he's used much more than that.
Jacksonville's offense, I think you're going to see kind of a similar feel to what you see in San Francisco with Deebo Samuels and Brandon Ayuk.
Love that. Yeah. Love that. All right, so our top 5 wide receivers each. Mine, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Odell Beckham Jr., Tyler Boyd, and Marvin Jones. For my top 5 must-have, you went Devonta Adams, Justin Jefferson, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Brown, and Michael Gallup. I love all of those. So 10 really good must-have receivers there. All right, you can follow me at JJansen34. You can follow my co-host Stoweby at Stoweby, Stoweby. Make sure to subscribe, windailysports.com. Sign up for a gold membership. You get the Win Daily season-long projections, and you also get all the DFS content that we're going to have once we do. I mean, next week is when we go through the normal.
I'm already working on it.
It's great when we go through the normal week of an NFL schedule. So things really just ramp up starting next week, and they already have already, as you can tell right now. We're doing it.
Yeah, people are in Discord like crazy, and I'm here for all of it.
It's great.
I love it.
I can't wait. And when you sign up for gold membership, you can also get that Discord chat as well, where you can get access to our experts, and just the community is great as well. And also make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel tonight, 8:00. Sina Jad. We're also going to have Joel and Spencer are going to be in there previewing the Tour Championship. It's the FedEx Cup playoff finale, so definitely a big one and a lot of money to be made, and those guys certainly know how to make it. So make sure, stay to our Win Daily YouTube channel, and you can set a reminder for that and subscribe so you don't miss out on the PGA DFS breakdown tonight. That is it for us. We'll be back tomorrow right here, Win Daily Sports.